Welcome to the PrepZone show presented by Bevill State. I'm your host, Johnathan Bentley, joined by my co-host, Zach McCullar over here. Zach, we're wrapping up the season here. It's almost over. It's a very down time of year. It's dreary outside.
I know.
So people
cold,
have been sick.
Dark at 3 in the afternoon.
Yeah, I can't stand it. Now we are past the start of winter, so we're gaining light every day.
That's true.
That's a positive.
One of the few positives.
Yes, we're on the other end of it, so now we're gaining light. But yeah, it's very dark and gloomy, especially for some several school football fans this year.
A lot of football fans.
A lot of football teams in this area, actually. It was a year. We're looking to forward to 2024. Maybe we'll get some better football this year.
I'm looking forward to it as well. There are some better games on the matchup. A lot of rivalries resuming. It's going to be a fun time.
It should be.
Yes.
All right, so let's jump right in. So since we were last here, seemed like it was a month ago. It was just a couple weeks. They have reclassified HSA, so we have teams moving around, jumping all over the place. We only had 2 teams move, though.
That's
classifications.
That's pretty low. Normally we have a lot of teams going up and down.
And the thing is, you hear about all these other schools. Hey, Curry's going to go down, and Oakman's going to go down, and it didn't happen.
No.
That's what it usually doesn't. So we had Jasper go to 6A. I don't think that was a surprise.
No, it wasn't.
And corner to 5A, which kind of was, I remember think about it, I guess kind of surprising.
It was a little bit, if it was my mindset going in, if that happened, if they were put up to 5A, I wouldn't be surprised. Also wouldn't have been surprised if they stayed at 4. Unfortunately, they move up to 5A. We'll get into that later, but they're in a tougher region.
Yes, that is very tough. All right, so who do you think was some of the winners?
Well, I think for me, Dora is moving into a better region. That's basically, I think they're making the best splash of anybody. Yeah,
I mean, we got to first mention in 3A, Winfield and Fayette went up to 4A. Right. Winfield hasn't been 4A in since 2000, I believe.
Right, and that put Oakman and Carbon Hill both in the winner's circle.
Yeah, that made them both, opens up a spot.
Right.
So a day later, Winfield's back. So I have no idea what happened. Somebody made a call to somebody else, and things materialized. Students had disappeared from the school, and boom, Winfield's 3A again, and they're right 3A. Back in there with Carbon Hill and Oakman.
It's just the way things work sometimes. Of course, that's definitely bad for both of them because if you look in the future playoff brackets, the 4 seed from that region has to play the number 1 seed in the region that contains Fife.
Fife is up to 3A.
Fife is up to 3A, which is also a devastating blow for everybody else in 3A.
Yes. Oh, man. Yeah. Oakman knows that they have felt that pain before. They've had to go to Fife. So it seemed like Oakman will probably end up playing Fife, just a guess.
Oakman always gets the most brutal opponent.
Yeah, it'd be Morris Hill, Madison Academy, something like that. So Fife fits right in. I also actually heard it was Pennington that was the one that had some numbers wrong, not Winfield. So
it was just all kinds of chaos.
It is. When
you move one team, you got to move about 10 others.
It
to make it work
everything.
Out.
And teams. So the next day, this happened a couple years ago. The next day, teams jumped all over. At one point, a couple years ago, they had Carbon Hill going to Elkmont, which is the state line. Then a couple days later, maybe the next day, that changed and it was back to normal.
Right. That's how it should be. You shouldn't be sending teams to Tennessee to play football games.
Yes. No, not from Carbon Hill. That's a very long trip.
That's a tough trip, too.
Speaking of tough trips, Jasper, they're to 6A. They went north. They have a lot of long trips. Huntsville's on that. Right. Muscle Shoals, Hartselle.
But that's better than getting sent to a Birmingham area region.
I'd
rather travel a little bit. Because,
you don't want to play Clay Chalk.
Right. I would rather substitute Clay Chalkville for Columbia, who's now on Jasper's schedule, who's a perennial cellar dweller, 0-10 last year.
They haven't won since 15. So, it's been a while. But, yeah, I think they'll take these trips. You only have to make half of them. So
that's right.
They do go to Columbia this year, though.
That's coming up here. That's going to be entertaining.
Long trip to Huntsville. All right, so Dora, we kind of mentioned Dora, no corner in that region, no north side. So does this come down to Dora Haleyville, you think?
It will. It will. And Haleyville may have an up year next year, and they could upend Dora.
Yes.
Dora, it seems like they're just blessed by winning the region. Things are going to happen so that Dora is going to win their region.
Right.
Now it's probably not going to be as chaotic a path.
Yes. It's a different team. We don't know. It's going to look different, obviously. Pryor has graduated. So, yeah, things will be different. But yeah. Well, let's talk about Corner really fast. They got put in a really bad spot. Just making the playoffs in the region they're in is going to be tough.
I mean, you go from a 9-1 regular season in 4A, and you're up to 5A, where it's just going to be terribly brutal.
Yeah.
Last year was the glory year, and this year they're just going to have to fight. And who knows? They can surprise us again. I wouldn't be too shocked if they were to have a decent season, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be tough.
It's going to be different. No Oak Grove on here or Curry, anything like that. All right, so Oakman, I consider them a loser because of the Winfield deal.
Right.
Because, really, maybe they would have been second behind Gordo.
I agree.
Things, if everything goes as planned.
Right, and we certainly cannot predict the future as to what's going to happen.
I can't predict anything, absolutely. But now Oakman gets thrown in there with Winfield again, and Winfield is always good.
But Oakman's a winner that Fayette County moved up. Because if Fayette County stays there, there's a chance that Oakman could be forced to travel to 5 in the first round of the playoffs. So that's a bunch of hypotheticals, but
that's what
we're
good at.
That's what we're here for.
Hypotheticals. Yep. All right, so let's get into talk. The football schedules came out. This was a very busy couple of weeks here. Really, a lot of stuff happening. So we got some. You remember? I think it was last year. You always wanted this Jasper Dora game.
I wanted that. I wanted to see this happen.
And now they're back on the schedule.
Jasper Dora. I can't wait.
Yeah. So Jasper goes to Dora in the middle of the season, and Dora needs this game too. They need a game with a gate, and that will be packed out.
It will.
Yeah.
And for Dora, not only is it a rivalry game, but if they were to beat Jasper, that's a 6A win. And anybody's going to take a 6A win. And, of course, Jasper wants to beat Dora, too, because to go to Dora and win in their stadium with their home fans is always tough.
Yeah, I commend Jasper for playing this game.
So
they didn't have to do this. You know what I mean?
They could have scheduled another Columbia-type team.
Right. They start the season with Brookwood and Sipsey Valley, so maybe just getting a couple wins would be really good after last year.
Just build.
Yeah, that'll be a very tough game for Jasper in year 2 of Coach Reeves over there at Chavis and Dora. But Curry, Carbon Hill. So the tier hiatus teams have played forever until a couple years ago. It's back on.
I'm glad to hear that. And it's going to be at Carbon Hill. It's going to be packed. It's going to be an excellent atmosphere. This is both of these teams are just looking for something. They've been in the cellars for so long, and if you can win your first game of the season, that's a lot of confidence getting instilled. So one of these teams is going to be going through their season with world beater mentality because they beat their biggest rival in the first game of the season, and now they can do anything.
Yeah, because I think the last 2 years, I think both teams have been drubbed in their opener.
Carbon Hill had Decatur Heritage.
Yeah, that's really, even though it's a 1A, is really tough.
Curry got Cold Springs, they're not.
I think it was 20-0 last year.
They're not a pushover. They're not excellent, but not a pushover.
Yeah, but this game should have never been stopped.
I agree.
And I'm glad it's back. Somebody will at least get a win.
That's right.
Because Carbon Hill went 0-10. Curry beat Vino 1-9. So somebody starts 1-0 would be great. So another one, Meek at Lynn is back.
I'm really looking forward to this one.
They should
also. I would have liked to have seen this game 2 years ago. 2022.
Yeah, when we needed it.
When they were both
always happened.
When they had a combined 19-1 record.
We were looking forward to that happening in the semis, and it never happened. They both got beat. But yeah, now they're playing, which is a good thing. That'll also be, like you said, packed. So in the last game of the year, Carbon Hill with Meek, that's a weird one.
That is kind of weird because it's two local teams, but it's not the teams you really expect to see playing each other. I think it's a good matchup.
Yeah. I can't remember Carbon Hill playing. I remember them playing Lynn.
Right. Carbon Hill Lynn used to be a
County,
big rivalry.
But not Meek.
Carbon Hill Lynn's a big rivalry. That's something I would like to see on the schedule, too. I can remember when that was a game Carbon Hill always counted on as a win, and look how Lynn's turned it around since then.
Yeah, that's not the same with Coach Hastings over there. All right, so was there any game that you were hoping for that we didn't get to see?
Not really. Like I said, I would have liked to see Carbon Hill Lynn. I would have liked to have seen that.
We still get Dora Cordova.
We do. We get Dora Cordova.
We're kind of mentioning ones that weren't on the schedule last year. Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen a little more of Winston County teams playing each other. We got enough of that. We've got a pretty good bit. And so I would say after last year not having a lot of area versus area teams, this is good to get us started.
Yeah, we really didn't. Those Winston County teams were pretty much to themselves almost. Right. I think Meek and Addison played, and that might have been it.
Well, Winston County also got Addison.
Yeah, that's right.
Meek played Oatman.
Yes. And now they got Carbon Hill in that spot.
Of course, we had that local region in 4A where everybody played each other, and that kind of helped us out.
Yeah, and I hate that Corner left that one.
I do
At least
too.
the other three are together again. Because for that one day, Dora was in a region with Birmingham schools.
That would have been tough.
And then the day later, thanks to Winfield and Pennington or whatever else, boom, Dora's back where they belong.
Good.
So Travis said he was looking forward to playing those new teams, but
Right.
I think they're going to be one of the front runners.
Yeah, I know if I were in his shoes, I would be very happy to be back in this region.
Yes, I know it is a lot of familiar teams.
I mean, it's not really that soft, but it's also not a gauntlet.
Right. And
It's
the one they were going
manageable.
to was really going to be tough. All right, so we can jump into college now. And Alabama and Auburn are coming up very soon. Auburn first because it's maybe a little bit lesser of a bowl game, probably.
There's a difference between the Music City Bowl and the Rose Bowl, but
People get them confused a lot. So Auburn's playing. We'll mention Auburn first since it's the lesser of these two games. So Auburn against Maryland. What do you think happens in Nashville?
well, when I first saw this matchup come out, I was thinking Maryland's going to win this. Maryland's going to win this because Talia Tungavaloa was going to play, but now he's opted out. So I've changed my tune. I think Auburn's going to get a victory here.
Yeah, I really hate that. I wanted them to play. I want to see best against best, even if you lose. So I really hate that because the rest of the team has passed for 42 yards. I mean, these guys didn't even play. It's basically like John Franklin III coming as your quarterback,
Right.
if you remember that name for Auburn. But so I went to the game a couple years ago, and I don't think it'll be like that. It was Purdue. It was 56
56 to
6 to
7.
7 at the half, yeah. And you know what? Really, I mean, it ended up being 63-14. But Auburn scored at the end. Joey Gatewood, remember this name?
Ah, yes.
Joey Gatewood scored. They didn't even. It was so out of hand. They didn't even review it. They just said it was short, and then they took a knee, and the game was over.
Oh, that's
so it
cruel.
should have been 70-14.
70 is so
Yeah.
much better of a number.
But I remember I was up in the stands. My buddy bought tickets in the Purdue section, so we
In
were
the
in
Purdue
He
section.
didn't pay attention to what he was doing.
Well, I mean, I've gone to Iron Bowl sitting in the Auburn section, so it's a
Yeah.
trying experience.
At halftime, we switched to the other side.
Good.
Yeah.
That was smart.
Yeah.
That
Well,
was
I mean, it was a fun game. So I think Auburn, Tungavaloa not playing really puts a damper on that. Because if they lose now, good grief.
Yeah, that would
But,
be
I mean, it's a bowl
embarrassing.
game, so,
Right.
anything could happen.
It's better than last year being 5-7 and not having anything to look forward to.
That
wouldn't you
team
say?
they didn't need to go to a bowl game. I was glad they missed because they did not need to, nowhere near a bowl game. So, all right, so we're thinking Auburn on that one. We'll move to the bigger game. Alabama's going all the way out to California again, and they're playing the number one team in the country. It really doesn't. They're the 4 seed, but does it feel like that?
No, it feels like it feels almost like this is the de facto championship game because a lot of people would agree that these are two of the best teams in the country.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not your typical 4 seed.
It's not.
I mean, they were hoping for Florida State to be the 4 seed in Michigan.
That's right. They were so disappointed. That's one video.
And they
I
really
never
thought that
turned.
was happening. I think
They
they really thought that was going to happen.
See, if Florida State had gotten in, though, I think they would have been a 3 seed, and Texas would have been 4th, and Michigan
That's probably
would have
right,
handled
yeah.
it. So Michigan was doomed from the start.
And now they're in a terrible spot.
It's a bad matchup for Michigan.
Right. I mean, Alabama in the playoffs. So what do you know? When's the last time Alabama lost a playoff game?
2014, they lost a semifinal that season. Now, they've lost championship games since then, but the last time they lost in the semifinal
Ohio State.
was to Ohio State. 1 versus 4. Alabama was 1. Ohio State
Wow.
was 4. If you remember, Ohio State was on the outside looking in. In the Big Ten championship game, they beat Wisconsin 59-0, and poor TCU gets kicked out of the playoffs. They were in. It was all set, but then, nope, they decided against it. And Ohio State gets the nod, and they cruise to a championship.
Then Alabama's in that same kind of spot.
It's very similar.
Yeah.
Eerily similar.
Where they almost didn't think they were going in.
Right.
They kind of sneak in there.
Like 2017, also Alabama
That's
made
true.
it in as the
Yep.
4th seed, and I wouldn't say they ran the table because they really struggled both of their games, but they won.
They won.
That's the important
That's
thing.
the thing. So what are you thinking about this game? You expect it to be close? Do you think Alabama wins? You think Michigan somehow pulls this off?
I think it's going to be close, but I've
Like
got
you're
to go
gonna
with
pick
Alabama.
against
Like I'm
Alabama,
going to
really?
pick against Alabama.
Never. Absolutely.
Well, I've done it once and I didn't get it right, so I will never do it again. Well, I'll say I'll never do it again. I don't know when Nick Saban retires.
Next year, so yeah.
No, don't say next year.
Right.
Don't say next year.
Yeah, but when you have Sarkisian as your head coach, we'll see what happens.
That would be a good fit, though. Off subject, but it'd be a good fit.
Yeah. Tangent. We have to do at least one.
We can push that off 10 years in the future or something.
So, I mean, Auburn ran the ball against Alabama, but then I think Alabama playing Georgia and beating them really kind of set everything back right.
It did. That's what Alabama needed, was to get pushed around in the Iron Bowl, manage to win, to get their mindset with Georgia. Just like 2 years ago, Alabama looked terrible in the Iron Bowl. They won in 4 overtimes, and they go out to dominate Georgia. This year it's somewhat similar. Hopefully it works out the same way in that term.
In a normal season, Georgia would have just moved over into the playoffs.
Right.
And probably would have ran in Alabama again and maybe would have beat them because it's hard to beat the same team
just
twice.
Like 21.
It's so hard to beat the same team twice. That's why I think if Alabama plays Texas, Texas is in for it.
Right.
That's just the way I think it.
What about if Alabama were to play Washington, though, going on with some hypotheticals?
I think they'd drill them. I really.
So
I think the other two, I mean, Texas probably wins that game. I hope. Okay. Maybe. I like Washington too, but I would rather Texas.
I haven't got anything against Washington, and Washington is going to be dangerous because nobody's talking about them.
No, it's like they're left out.
It feels like they hadn't even made the playoffs because the only time you see it is when the commercials advertising the playoffs. You'll see.
Oh yeah.
That's right. There's Washington in there.
So undefeated Washington.
Beat
Oregon twice.
That's hard to do.
It's a very good team, very underrated, like you said.
Right.
All right, so. What matchup would you rather see in the championship?
In all honesty, I'd rather see Alabama-Texas.
Again?
I want a rematch because that left a bad taste in my mouth earlier this season.
That was a home game. You were there.
I was there. It was a home game, and it was terrible. See, Alabama they'd just taken the lead. Fourth quarter, all the momentum in the world. Texas goes down there in 4 plays, scores. Next play, interception. Yep. Play after that, touchdown Texas. They're up by 11.
Just like that.
And that was basically it.
Yeah, this is a different Alabama team. That was early. That seems like months and months. Well, it was months ago.
It feels like it was 2 or 3 seasons ago. I got sunburn at that game too. That's how long it's been.
Wow. Yeah. Now he's back to his ghostly
self. Back to ghostly and pale.
All right, so I would rather see that too, and I'm not picking against Alabama either. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Right.
Back then when they lost Texas, I thought they're going to lose 2 or 3 games.
Back then,
at least 2. Ole Miss is going to get them. LSU might get them. No, wasn't even that close, really.
Well,
Auburn was the only one that really, really pushed them, I guess.
Texas A&M had a shot.
Right,
they were in it. They had a shot
every time.
Arkansas, believe it or not, had a shot.
That makes no sense.
We disregard that game. Disregard.
Arkansas didn't even make a bowl game. Weren't even close. 4 games, right?
4 and 8.
Yeah. See, this is a different team now. Alabama's battle tested, ready to go.
Right.
This is where they're supposed to be. All right, so do you have any picks for us this week?
I do. We're going to go into the New Year's Six. I would have added the Music City Bowl, but I think we both agreed that we're picking Auburn in that one. So we're going to start outside of the playoffs with Ole Miss and Penn State in the Peach Bowl. It's a very interesting game because it's Ole Miss, who runs a lot of high-speed tempo offense, and their defense is kind of a And then you have Penn State, who it seems like they've forgotten that it's legal to throw a forward pass.
Ugly
but their defense is so good that they really don't have to worry about that unless they're playing Ohio State or Michigan. Right. So, who do you see winning this one?
I did take Penn State because I really don't like Ole Miss. I'm basically right. It's pretty. There's nothing else to it. I don't know. Ole Miss is really good this year. So they have 2 losses.
2 losses.
To Alabama and somebody else.
Let's see, Georgia.
Well, that's pretty good.
That's really good.
It's about as good as it gets.
And they were both road trips. They lost by 14 to Alabama in Tuscaloosa when Alabama was not that great. Right after the South Florida game, and then they got dismantled by 35 against Georgia.
Right, and Penn State's losses are pretty good. I mean, this will be really tough. I took Penn State, but I have no reason. It's going to be close.
Well, the reason I picked Penn State, and I will say, these are 2 teams' combined record of 20-4, and the 4 losses are Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Michigan. Yeah. That's really impressive. That, really. The 2 best 2-loss teams in the country. But I've seen it happen several times when when the strength on strength is offense versus defense. So one team has an outstanding offense, the other team has an outstanding defense. Defense normally wins. So that's why I'm going with Penn State.
Yes,
that's
Ole Miss defense is not elite.
Right, and I think Ole Miss will keep it close. I think it'll be a really fun game. to watch. I mean, believe it or not, Penn State could play in a fun game. But I think Penn State's offense finally shows up, and they're going to get the win.
It's a big game,
It
really.
really is.
Big game for Ole Miss if they could win this thing.
All right, next up, New Year's Day, Liberty, Oregon, Fiesta Bowl. Just
Undefeated Liberty.
undefeated Liberty, ranked 23rd. Oregon's
Barely
8th.
got ranked.
Yeah, Oregon
Yes.
is 8th. Their 2 losses are to Washington and Washington.
This is your typical upset bowl game.
It
right
really
here.
is.
It could be.
It's like last year's Tulane versus USC in the Cotton Bowl.
Exactly. Very similar. Yep. Or Boise State, Oklahoma back in the day. But I am going Oregon. I just don't see them losing this game. Bo Nix's last game.
Right. And, Oregon is a heavy favorite. I don't think it'll be that bad. I think it'll be a really close, back-and-forth, high-scoring game. But, I mean, Liberty's undefeated, but they also had the easiest schedule in the country
I can't
by
imagine.
far.
Yeah.
They played in Conference USA, who's got 9 teams. 3 of them just moved up to the FBS in the
UTSA.
last 5 years. UTSA.
UTEP.
It's just a very, very soft schedule. They're not as good as they're cracked up to be, but they'll still put a fight on Oregon.
Yeah, this is a big game for them. They'll
Right.
be up for it. but,
It's
yeah,
the
I
biggest
still
game
think
they've
it'll
ever
matter.
played
Yes.
in program history.
It's a big game, really.
But picking Oregon.
Yes. I think that'll be a runaway.
Yes,
I really do. They'll pull away at the end there.
So do I. Next up, we are going to go with
Tennessee.
Tennessee, Iowa. Oh, that's...
Oh, you didn't even mention that.
No,
Are you not even
we
gonna
hadn't
bring that
mentioned.
up?
I wasn't going to, but that's going to be a good game.
Is it?
I think so.
Iowa just
Because remember, like I said, strength on strength normally
that
goes to the
definitely
defense.
is strength. But boy, Iowa's hard to watch.
Yeah.
it is.
Tennessee's good.
Miserable to watch Iowa football.
Tennessee will win, but it will.
Yeah,
be
Tennessee's not
close.
great this year. They really
They're
are.
not. They've been a disappointment.
I would say it was a disappointing season.
It
Yeah.
was. They almost beat Alabama though, so for them,
Almost.
Almost. See,
A lot of teams
almost would've-
almost beat Alabama this year. didn't they?
almost would have worked for them in the last 15 years up until last year when they won. Now almost doesn't
Yeah,
cut it anymore.
that's a good point. Exactly. So Georgia, Florida State is one of them. I
Georgia,
guess?
Florida State is coming up next. The Orange Bowl, such a highly touted matchup. 5 versus 6. It's very
It looks
rare.
good on paper.
It really does look good on paper.
Right.
But this is, in my opinion, going to be one of the worst dismantlings on a national scale since the last year's national championship game.
It's a shame that the game's going to be so bad.
I know it's
I wish everybody was there for. I think even if Jordan Travis is back, I'd pick Georgia.
so would I, because Georgia's going to be mad.
They're
They just-
very upset. And normal year, like I said before, they would be in the playoffs, but
That's
there's
right.
so many good teams this year that didn't make it, and they're going to be. They'll be out for Florida State, and they're in trouble.
They will. Georgia.
Their backup quarterback is even opted
Yeah,
out.
Georgia really doesn't have a whole lot of opt-outs. Just a couple of people that have transferred and all that. Florida State, hardly anybody's going to play for them.
There's no reason to play.
No, there's not.
You missed out on the playoff. I'm
But,
gone.
I mean, technically, could they still win a national championship in the AP? I mean, they could be a split
Technically, yes.
championship. There could be if there's no one
It'd
defeated.
be the first one since the 90s?
Well,
I believe.
2003.
Okay.
LSU,
and USC. That was it. Wow. Yeah, 20 years later. Who would ever think
20
that?
years later. I mean, it's possible. It's not gonna
Maybe
happen.
Golf Digest, like they gave to Auburn, will give Florida State the championship. That was Auburn's championship one year.
Oh,
Yeah,
my word.
they got the Golf Digest championship.
You can get a trophy.
I don't know. Might be a big golf ball in
Big
the
golf ball. I like that. I
the
like
school.
that. All right, so I take it we're both going Georgia pretty big.
Georgia,
You
yes,
think it'll
easily.
be ugly?
Yeah, it'll be 3 touchdowns at least.
3 touchdowns, man.
Mhm.
That's going to be. And it could be entertaining. I mean, I guess it could be, but I don't know.
I want to. It's a shame that because you look at it, you want a good bowl game, and you're not going to get one.
Next game, this will be a good bowl game in my opinion. Missouri, Ohio State. Ohio State's got a lot of people in the portal, a lot of opt-outs, but it's Ohio State. Missouri's kind of an upstart in terms of success, but
That's a good point.
everybody's playing. Who
Yeah,
you
I mean,
taking?
why would Ohio State care about this game?
Right.
You know, it's Ohio State. Missouri, yes.
Yeah,
man, they would
Missouri's gonna care.
because they get to play Ohio State, mighty
Right.
Ohio State. I took Ohio State just because the name on the jersey.
That doesn't work for me. I got to pick
You
Missouri.
picked Missouri?
I did because nobody's playing for Ohio State. Kyle McCord, their starting quarterback's
I
transferred
know.
to Syracuse.
That-
He's already
that is
enrolled.
Bizarre. That is so bizarre.
They've got people that have declared for the draft. I mean, transfer
But
portal.
Syracuse?
Syracuse, who just lost to South Florida in the Boca Raton Bowl 45 to nothing.
Didn't even sore. That was a great pick by me. I
insane.
picked Syracuse. Love the orange. So there you go.
I picked South Florida.
That was a good pick.
Now, I was not expecting much. I was thinking low scoring, close, 45-0.
That was probably one of the worst bowl games. That and the South Alabama game have been terrible bowl games.
South Alabama made it worse. It was, oof. We're getting off on a tangent here.
Again,
so I'm picking Missouri. You're going Ohio State. We're a split decision.
Yeah, I don't. You got to pull for SEC, right? No,
definitely.
No,
well, it depends.
No.
If it's,
I'm not pulling for Tennessee.
Neither am I.
Georgia.
Well, I kind of want Georgia to win.
Georgia will win.
I kind of want them to win, just to shut Florida State up, just to shut them up. That's why I want Georgia.
This is kind of like the position Auburn was in to shut up. Was it Central Florida that year? Yeah.
Yes, and failed. 2017.
And Central Florida never stopped talking.
They've claimed that championship in 2017.
It's Auburn's fault.
It is. It's really Auburn's fault. That's Gus Malzahn.
So it's the kind of same situation here. Georgia said, shut him up.
That was Gus Malzahn who did that. Now Gus is at UCF.
Yes.
They paid him in advance.
And they got beat.
Yeah. All right, we're so far off subject now. It's insane.
Let's reel it back in.
All right, so we've had 4 of the New Year's 6 bowl games. That leaves only the playoffs left. We're going to start with the 2 versus 3 matchup in the Sugar Bowl, Washington and Texas. Tough road trip for Washington. They're the higher seed, but they have to go to New Orleans.
That's going to be a
tough.
Heavy Texas crowd.
It will.
It's probably going to be anyway, no matter where you went.
Well,
but
probably so. They travel well in Texas.
I don't see Texas losing this game. I mean, Washington keeps sneaking. I mean, I picked them. Oregon to beat them twice.
So did I.
I was 0-2 on those. So what I know, right?
Yeah. What do I know?
So I'm picking them against them again.
So
third time's a charm.
Hey, you're right. You make a good point. Third time's a charm. I'm picking Texas as well because, I mean, Texas is so much better. Their only loss, you look at it now. How did they lose to Oklahoma?
I don't know.
Oklahoma,
thank goodness they made it with that loss.
Now Oklahoma is 10-2. Nobody's talking about them. They're ranked 12th. They're going to play Arizona in their bowl game. Nobody's talking about it. That's a little disappointing because I think that they're better than – I think that if you put Oklahoma on a field against either Ole Miss or Penn State, I think Oklahoma would beat both of them.
Yeah, they had a weird year this year.
Very weird. You lose to Kansas and Oklahoma State.
That Texas game was incredible. It's a great game.
That was so good.
Texas gets in the playoffs even with that loss. Right. So lucky for them. But I am taking them to beat Washington. Close game, though.
So am I. We touched on this earlier. Alabama and Michigan in the Rose Bowl, 1 versus 4. We both hinted at picking Alabama, so is that what you're going to do?
Yeah, I'm not going to pick against them. I picked against them once, I think, this year. So
you did. Which game? That was the championship game, SEC championship.
Yes. And I was wrong.
Yes.
Alabama showed out. Yeah, they really impressive that game. And this is the next one. Like I said, everything's right on track now. It was off a little bit. You're kind of questioning. They almost lost to Auburn. What's going on here?
Yeah.
It was a turn there. So
that's
that
true.
Happens.
Voodoo.
So they're back. They're going. And, yeah, I'm picking them next 2 games if it goes that far.
I agree. So you've got Alabama putting a 19 up on their helmet by the end of the.
I don't know what is it 19.
It's at 18 right now.
I don't know how many legitimate or actually.
I mean, if you were to look back, you could argue that there are 2, 3, maybe 4 that Alabama don't deserve, and then 2 or 3 that Alabama deserve but didn't get.
That's true. That's a good point.
1945, 1966, 1977.
60. So it kind of evens out.
It does. It really does. It really does even out. Does and Alabama somehow got a championship?
God, number 19, that would be crazy. Yeah, I'm thinking that.
I agree because Alabama's motivated.
That's the thing.
You never want to play.
You would never
Alabama
look at this team that didn't even have a quarterback early in the year, and hey, they're going to be playing for the championship.
I mean, the starting quarterback's going to Notre Dame to play lacrosse. That's the one point of the season. The starting quarterback.
Yes.
Goodness.
Why don't you sit around, wait till the season's over, then leave?
Well, he's going to. He's not leaving.
So he does have a chance. He
wants his ring. He wants that championship ring.
And he could play if somebody gets, hopefully it doesn't happen.
He could. I would hope not.
Or maybe they're winning by so much they put him
that would be funny. Let him take the knees. Right. Let him take the knees. That would be cool. All right, we're off on a tangent. So we both agree that it'll be Alabama, Texas in the national championship game in Houston, which will be another humongous Texas crowd.
Well, Alabama will have some people there. Yeah, it'll be half and half maybe, or maybe 60-40, something like that.
65. Yeah. That national championship game in Indianapolis between Alabama and Georgia was 70-30 Georgia.
Wow, who would have thought that?
Yeah, I didn't expect it. It was tremendous advantage for Georgia, but Alabama seems to play well in other teams' backyards because 2017 went to Atlanta to play Georgia in the national championship game and won. So maybe it works out this time.
Yeah, I can see that happening. It's a shorter trip. So don't go to this game, the Rose Bowl, go to the championship.
That's
Save
right.
your money. Go to Houston.
Save your money.
Yeah, I hope it gets to that.
I do too.
Or spend $30 and go to the Auburn game.
Is it only 30?
Maybe 40.
Well, I saw tickets as cheap as 22. So
because Maryland isn't bringing. When
Maryland's
they played
not
Purdue,
traveling.
Purdue was closer than Auburn to Nashville, which is crazy. But Maryland's not going to. They're not going to have anybody there.
Right.
Another tangent.
Another tangent.
To close out the show.
We have to, though.
Yeah.
The final tangent of the season.
Yes. I don't know.
Well,
it's not over yet.
It's not over yet.
But yes. All right. So that wraps up our show. We want to thank Bevill State for the great, sponsorship all season long. Get out and watch their basketball team. They'll be playing here soon, starting conference play in January. So, and they got that new arena coming.
I know, it's going to be
That's
beautiful.
going to be awesome. So, thank you for that. And if you like what you've seen, hit the subscribe and like button. I want to thank Jake for producing this year and Zach for being here this year. It's been a great year.
Sure
Right?
has. I've
Even though
enjoyed it.
some of the football teams weren't
Well,
that great.
the football
It was still
hadn't been
fun,
as good.
right?
It
Yeah.
was so much fun.
They deserve their credit for
That's
where
right.
credit was due. All right, and that wraps up the show. Thank you again for Bevill State and to Jake and Zach. I'm Johnathan Bentley. We'll see you soon.